Hola, ¿qué tal? Gracias por estar en sintonía de Canada Latin Channel en este programa especial que le traemos a través de Canada Latin Channel. Gracias a todos por seguirnos, por estar pendientes de nuestro contenido. Y bueno, antes de iniciar con esta entrevista que tenemos preparada para hoy, pues quiero invitarte a que si no nos sigues en YouTube, pues nos sigas. Estamos en YouTube, estamos en Twitter, ahora es X, también estamos en TikTok y por supuesto en nuestra página web canadalatinchannel.com. Te recuerdo que ni Facebook ni Instagram pues nos permite compartir noticias debido a esta ley que promovió el gobierno federal auspiciada por un parlamentario latino. Pero aquí estamos listos para traerles el mejor contenido con la mejor información que se suscita a lo largo y ancho de Canadá. Y como le decía, bueno, el día de hoy tenemos una entrevista con la primer ministra de Alberta, Danielle Smith. Vamos a estar hablando con ella, vamos a platicar acerca de algunos temas importantes que la comunidad latina debe de conocer y debe de saber. Bueno, ya estamos con la con la primer ministra de Alberta, Danielle Smith, quien va a platicar con nosotros acerca de, como ya le comentaba, pues temas importantes. First of all, I want to say thanks for being here, Premier. Thanks for being here with us and talk to us. And I want to start to you and ask about what's going on with the agenda you have in this week, in this month? What's going on with the premier and with the province, with Alberta?
Sure, there'll be very brief remarks. It's been a busy summer. I've been doing just a lot of community engagement, travel around the province, and we've begun our table with the federal government on trying to get alignment on our net zero or carbon neutrality by 2050 target. As you've seen, we have a difference of opinion about the pace that we should be using to get to that target, but we agree on the target. And so we've begun the process of negotiating with them about where we might set our milestones. I'm very hopeful that that is going to go well, because I've made it very clear that we simply cannot get to a carbon neutral power grid by 2035 without having severe hardship on our most vulnerable citizens and without risking reliability problems within our power grid. We've spent a lot of time consulting with the generators in this industry, and they need to get certainty, and certainly certainty that they will not be prosecuted if they don't meet these arbitrary targets by 2035. So unfortunately, the federal government has gone off in the wrong direction, and we've made it very clear to them that they have to negotiate with us, since this is an area of Alberta's constitutional authority. We also are going to be making some major changes in how we approach healthcare delivery. We're going to be having a lot more local control and local decision making. Our health minister, Adriana LaGrange, is in the middle of that process. You'll find out more about that in the coming weeks and months. And I will be attending COP28 this year with a delegation from Alberta to talk about our priorities for how we are going to get to carbon neutrality, and also talk about the exciting emerging sectors that we have with geothermal and hydrogen, carbon capture utilization and storage. And we're also going to be having a caucus retreat in the coming weeks to do some preparation for the fall legislative session. So there's plenty to talk about, and happy to answer your questions, and I'll turn it over to you.
Premier, I wanna ask you about the health. You, as a premier, you made a lot of changes on health in Alberta. Talk to us about what is these changes and what is the goal? What are you looking for with these changes?
Right. We made a lot of changes on emergency medical services, EMS, before the election. One was making sure that paramedics have more opportunity to treat on site, so it reduces the number of trips. Another is making sure that there is an opportunity when someone calls 911 for them to speak immediately to a nurse on the 811 line, so that we reduce the number of unnecessary trips. Third is using non-ambulance transfer vehicles, so that we have private vehicles able to transport patients to routine hospital visits and doctor visits, so that that doesn't use an acute care ambulance. And between those three things, we've been able to take a huge amount of pressure off of our EMS system, such that almost all the time we have been able to avoid red alerts. And that's when we have no ambulances available in Calgary and Edmonton. That's important because when ambulances become unavailable in Calgary and Edmonton, they get pulled in from outlying jurisdictions. So we're very pleased with the progress we've made on that. There's more work to do, because the other big aspect is making sure that all the positions that are acute care hospitals that receive ambulance are fully filled. When I last checked, I think we had a plan to hire 120 frontline health professionals to onboard patients, and we were up at 58. So we're about halfway there, but we still need to make sure that we're hiring more people into those positions, and that will be the last piece to make sure that EMS is working well. So I feel really positive about where our EMS reforms are going. When it comes to the other decisions, we're restructuring Alberta Health Services so that more decisions get made at the site level. I think we have 106 AHS facilities, and we need to empower the site manager to make decisions at that level, and then coordinate by zone so that each zone in the province has as many services as possible close to home. And that restructuring is taking place right now. We've just begun some initial steps towards that. The third major aspect is developing out primary care, so that everyone has a primary care practitioner. And that's going to be defined a little bit differently in the future, because what we're seeing is doctors have increasingly chosen not to go into family medicine. Only 10% of our graduates come out as primary care doctors. And even of the 4,500 primary care doctors we do have in Alberta, I'm told only 2,500 to 3,000 of them are receiving patients. The others are working in hospital or working as physician assistants. And so we know that doctors are very highly paid. There's lots that they can do. So we need to augment those doctors who want to continue with primary practice with nurse practitioners and other health professionals.
Premier, I want to ask you about this discussion about the schools with regarding about the pride, the new rules, the pride try to involve all the kids with this change of gender, all that kind of thing. What do you think about this, and what is your opinion?
Yes, definitely. So on the issue of it seems to me that the biggest source of dispute that we're seeing on issues from the LGBT community is about transgender issues. I think that what we're seeing is that there's a balance that everybody is trying to reach between supporting kids and also supporting parental rights. We have a caucus meeting planned in the next couple of days. It's this week. And I want to make sure that I understand where all of my caucus members are coming from, which is part of the reason we haven't made a public statement yet about whether we're going to make any changes, is that we have to have a full discussion within our caucus. But that's what we're trying to balance, is how do kids feel like they're being supported, but how do we make sure that parental rights are being protected? So we'll have more to say about that once I've had a chance to have a full caucus discussion on it. On the issue of halal financing, I have met with my finance minister, and I've also met with the credit union that we want to partner with, and told them that I would be very keen to see if we could get the legislative framework in place in the fall, if possible, if not, at least in the spring, so that we can roll out a halal product. And it would be through one of our credit unions and potentially even through ATB. So we've reignited those conversations with Service Alberta, which was the credit union that wanted to be our partner. The thing that delayed them was that they are in the middle of a merger. And so that isn't going to be finalized until November 1st. But I did tell them that if they could get some of their internal folks working on that right away, that would be appreciated. So we would love to be able to have a product in place. This was what I told them. We'd love to have a product in place so that by January of 2024, as people are starting the new year, they can start making plans around it. So it's very much a priority for the government.
Premier, I want to ask you about this new law which is in effect with Meta and Instagram. It's banned all the news of Canadians. Canadians can't see anything in Facebook and Instagram. What do you think about this new law with the Liberals just approved, and it's affecting us as independent journalists, less myself and other person. What do you think about it?
Well, as much as I talk about provincial and federal jurisdiction, part of what my approach has been is to assert in Alberta our jurisdiction, recognizing that the feds have the right to make regulation in other areas, and they do have the right to make regulation when it comes to broadcast media. I'm disappointed that they went this route. I think that whoever was lobbying for it was not thinking about the consumer. And the consumer wants to get good news. They want to get good information that is provided by a whole range of voices. And it's disappointing that this is the result. I don't blame Meta and I don't blame Google for responding this way. I blame the federal government for drafting terrible legislation. So I would recommend that all of the different news agencies tell them, the federal government, they made a mistake, and that they get it corrected in the fall. I think that there was some belief that by passing this legislation, it would force Google and Facebook to give money to the different ethnic media and the different mainstream media. And instead they said, well, we just won't share it. And so now you don't even get the benefit of having the ability to have your articles shared. So it's the worst of all worlds. So not only is there not more money coming your way, but now there's fewer eyes coming your way. And that is not sustainable. I'm gravely worried that we'll see a loss of voices. The one thing that we do as a government is that we make sure that when we do advertising campaigns, that we have a large amount of dollars that are spent in all of the different news media. And so maybe you can get in touch with, I'll put this out to all of you, that maybe you can just make sure that Sam has the access to so that you guys know how to access or that we know how to place our ads in various newspapers and various media when we do our advertising campaigns. I'm not as clear on that process myself. I leave that to my Communications and Public Affairs Bureau when they make those decisions. But we do want to make sure that we're advertising as broadly as possible, so that also assists in making sure that the media have another source of revenue. But I would say that that this is really a federal issue that they've made a huge blunder on. And I'll raise it with my federal counterparts, but I think it's important that all of you raise it as well.
One of the topics who is on the table right now is the police of Alberta. So it was an initiative by you, Premier, before you was a Premier. I mean, like your before the election. Just saying, the Alberta need another police enforcement. I mean, RCMP, it's taking care of the whole Alberta, all the province. But you mentioned before you want to build a new police, Alberta police, to work with the small municipalities all across the province. What do you think about this? And talk to us about that.
Just the way I look at it is that we want to support cities and towns in the policing that makes sense for them. And so that's why we have given a grant to Grand Prairie. They've made the decision to develop their own municipal police force. We're supporting them with about $10 million to help with that transition. And they're doing it over 5 years so that as they increase their number of municipal officers, it'll decrease their complement of RCMP, so that by the time they get to year 5, it'll be 100% municipal. And I think there are many municipalities watching to see whether that's the model for them. And any municipality that wants to do that, we will support them, because I think they may come to the same conclusion that Grand Prairie did, that by having more local control and able to do the local recruitment, it's leading to better policing. So we have 15 municipalities that have asked us for grants to explore this as well. We have had one that is exploring the idea of a sheriff's detachment, and we will continue to support any municipality that wants to make that decision and assist them in transition. The second thing is the sheriffs. You will see that we have announced a large number of specialty operations within the sheriffs. We're increasing their training so that they have equivalency with other police services, so they can move seamlessly between them. We have a special force that we're putting together for gangs, for smuggling at the border, for human trafficking, for fentanyl, as well as for monitoring those who are released or who are out on warrants. So what you'll see is that we are building our sheriff's force, and we're building up our municipal police forces. And at some point, the federal government will have to tell us what their intentions are with the RCMP, because they have been sending the signal that they want to get out of community policing. And that's the reason why we have to build up these other options, is that we don't think that the federal government has the commitment to community policing. So we, you may have seen at the Council of the Federation, we put in our final communique to press the federal government to tell us what their direction is. And the Prime Minister has responded by saying that he feels the RCMP should be more like an FBI, more like a federal police force. So I think that as the federal government makes their intentions clear, and as our municipalities make their intentions clear, I think we will have lots of different options in Alberta. And then at some point, we'll have to make a decision on the RCMP contract, which comes up for renewal in 2032.
Premier, before we end, I want to ask you this, because we're having the worst year on the whole history in Canada. All is expensive. Grocery is expensive. Gasoline is expensive, thanks to carbon tax who the federal government is supposed approve. And housing as well. We have problems in housings. I mean, all the Canadians around across the country, they're getting struggle with the economy. It's a recession. It's a lot of inflation going on, and the federal government is not doing a good job about that. So my question is, Premier, what are you doing it with the help the Albertans to help all of those we live in the province? Because as I said, federal government is just worse and worse.
Well, it should be no surprise to you that at the federal level, my support goes behind Pierre Poilievre, who I think has been doing an incredible amount of work for the last 2 years, trying to warn the federal government that they were heading in the wrong direction. And everything he predicted has come true. He said you cannot keep on spending money at the rate that they were, printing money at the rate they were, and it would lead to inflation. He was warning about it 2 years ago, and it's exactly what we've seen today. So now we're seeing an increase in interest rates, which always follows when you have inflation. And I'm very worried about what happens when people's mortgages come up for renewal and they face a much higher rate. That is something that I have my housing minister, Jason Nixon, working with Rick McIver on to see if there's anything we can do to very quickly bring more housing stock on stream to help keep prices for rent lower and keep prices for first-time home buyers lower. And we'll continue working with the municipalities to clear away any of the obstruction to building new homes. That's one side of it. The other side is that we have extended our fuel tax reprieve, because we were charging 13 cents a liter on every liter of gasoline. And then the federal government keeps on raising carbon taxes. So we just removed our fuel tax so that we didn't end up adding to the problem. And it's why we've got the lowest fuel prices in the country. I've seen them as low as even $1.39.9 this week, whereas in Vancouver, they're, I think, $1.94.9. So when you think about that, the fact that we are able to offer a 50-cent discount on every single liter of gas and diesel that is purchased in this province, that makes it easier for families, makes it easier for any transport company that is transporting goods, reduces the cost of everything that gets transported. And we're seeing it. We've got a lower inflation rate in this province than anywhere else. So those are the kind of measures that we like to take, these broad-based measures to reduce the cost of everything, to counteract what they're doing at the federal level. But it's also why I'm fighting them so hard on these clean electricity regs. They want to bring through changes that would make our electricity grid net neutral by 2035. We say 2050 because we think we can do it by 2050. 2035 is just too fast. And if they succeed in doing that, it would cost $200 to $400 billion to upgrade our grid, which we think can increase electricity bills by 5-fold. And I don't think most families, based on the struggles that I'm hearing about now, they certainly would not be able to afford a 5-fold increase in their electricity bills. So we're going to make sure that we focus on keeping the cost of energy as low as we possibly can, whether it's gasoline, diesel, whether it's home heating, or whether it's electricity. And if we can manage those costs, we think that that's going to end up reducing the cost for everything else. When it comes to what we can do on the home front, well, we may just have to wait until the city of Calgary passes their policy September 14th to see what we can do to work with them to make housing costs less expensive. But it's unfortunate it's come to this. Everybody knew that we were heading in the wrong direction for the last 2 years, and now the policies of the federal government are mostly to blame for the unaffordability that we have right now.
Thanks, Premier. Thanks for being here with us, and you have a good day. Bueno, a mí no me queda más que agradecer el favor de tu atención. Gracias por acompañarnos y por ser parte de esta comunidad de Canada Latin Channel. Te quiero invitar nuevamente a que nos sigas en nuestras redes sociales, en YouTube, estamos en TikTok, estamos en Twitter, que hoy es X, también en nuestra página web www.canadalatinchannel.com. Bueno, también en Spotify para que tú no te pierdas ningún contenido, ninguna noticia que nosotros aquí te presentamos. Gracias nuevamente a todos ustedes por estar pendientes de nuestro contenido y estamos trabajando para traerles la mejor información con las mejores entrevistas y, como ya le dije, las mejores noticias que suceden a lo largo y ancho de Canadá. Por mi parte, yo me despido y esté pendiente de nuestro contenido, de nuestras redes sociales, de nuestra plataforma digital, porque estaremos trayendo más información y mejor para toda la comunidad latina en Canadá. Yo le deseo un muy bonito día, tarde, noche, mañana, cualquier hora que usted vea este contenido. Gracias. Nos vemos.